Good afternoon. What happens on a Friday afternoon? People that really care about their business. I'm Podcast Pete, and in the studio, we got two younger than 65 guys that are out here building a business, a needed resource in our senior community. And I met Patrick the other night, and he's with his childhood golfing friend. And so I convinced them to end Friday on a high note by coming on the podcast and really hearing their story. So, Patrick, I want you to go first. Tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then Mitchell will follow right behind you.
Yeah, my name is Patrick Wenzell. I'm the CEO of WellWay Non-Emergency Medical Transportation. We offer wheelchair accessible transportation to individuals with intellectual, developmental, and or physical disabilities. We're based out of Akron, Georgia. We'll go just about anywhere. And the company stemmed and originated from my father, who I spent the last 10 years of his life providing non-emergency medical transportation. We realized that providers had a lot of issues with showing up on time and other things of that nature. So we decided to just buy our own van and do it our way and make sure that he was taken care of, up to his standards, which were always high. You know how people can be, but his standards were always high. So we wanted to make sure he had that. And after his passing, a few years went by, and this is what WellWay came from in his memory. So
yeah, I love that. I mean, why people get into what they do, it's usually through an experiential that touches the heart story. So I can imagine, and we'll talk in just a minute, but Mitchell, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and maybe the relationship with Patrick.
Yeah, so I'm Mitchell McLean, childhood friends with Patrick. I guess with WellWay, I'm the COO, helping him run and grow this business that he is extremely passionate about and that we both are. As he mentioned, it being based off his father, his dad was another father to me. He was my superhero. Everything I looked up to in life was Patrick's dad, and we had the pleasure of growing up together, sharing a roof a lot of times, and we both had that personal experience of helping his father when the time came, get in and out of vehicles, get to appointments and things like that. So when Patrick, brought this up to me a little bit later on that he wanted to start WellWay and get it going, and explain to me the reasoning, and we both experienced the need that is in the industry. I understood completely, and I said, why not? Yeah, for sure. I'm involved in a few other businesses, and I'm happy to help you. You're the talent, what to do behind the wheel and getting people in the vans, and I just want to help you grow as much as I can. So just trying to be a good friend and see what we can do with it and how many people we can help throughout the process.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love that. When Patrick, started putting this concept and idea together, what was it like when he's talking to you about, were you cautious, or were you say, go for it? What was your kind of thinking when he was talking to you about it?
There's being best friends. There's not many things that we say to each other that's serious. And when he brought this up to me, I could hear it in his voice. I heard the passion. I heard, the meaning behind his father and how he wanted to take this a step further. And once again, I could just tell in his tone that this was the real deal and that he needed some help with it and that he wanted to take it as far as he could. And it was, let's go for it. I'll do whatever we can. We'll drop whatever we have going on to make it work. And we're excited to be here, and let's see how much further we can go. It was the first time he hasn't laughed at me when I brought him an idea. I'll just say that. He's had plenty of bad ones, but this one hit the nail on the head.
Well, business is failing forward. So if you told me, I had a person, when I came back and I started getting out in the marketplace, I went to this Kennesaw it's Kennesaw Business Association, and they usually will have it at a facility, kind of like what we met in the evening at Canterbury. It was done in the morning, and it was a coffee shop. And yes, it's right by my golf place. So I was down there, and I said, let me pop in and see these people, because it had been about 6 months. And I pull into the driveway or the shopping center. Nothing's there. Signs gone. Room is empty. it kind of gives a pit in your stomach when you see that. But the market really, getting in business is no piece of cake. You have to fail, and you have to fail quickly, and you have to learn from each one. What would you say, Patrick, when you were with your dad and you're seeing terrible service and you're kind of going, what were you thinking when you started to put all these things together about the quality of the service? What was when you bought the first van for me? Because you, as I think you told me, you purchased the van and started doing a lot yourself because you couldn't depend on anybody else to get it done. What was it like when you started going down that route for our viewers?
When we started going down the route of transporting him, or when I started?
Yeah, because when you were telling me that 10 years your dad is in a position where he needs medical assistance.
Yeah.
So the first couple of years, I guess, give our viewers an idea of what that journey was like.
Yeah, well, my dad was very reluctant at first to accept his situation. He was paralyzed after spinal surgery. And this is a man who played goaltender D1 collegiate hockey at Michigan State University and University of Michigan, played tennis his whole life, golf, was a successful businessman himself, and was just super, super passionate, and active. So it was very difficult for him to accept. So, we had to battle him, and try to work him into accepting that we needed to modify the house, that we needed to work on getting a van that was accessible to him. And then, but he fought it, right? So we had to start leaning on companies to come and show up and take him from point A to point B. And, every time that he would finally schedule something with somebody, they either wouldn't show up. And like I said earlier, his standards are really high, right? He could be kind of a, at certain times, but they would never meet his standards. The training wouldn't be there. And he was very sensitive to bumps in the road, to them positioning him in the wrong way, trying to move his chair, because it's so easy to just think, hey, I'll just drag your chair a little bit to the left. That'll be fine. That could, crack a rib, or, who knows what it could do to him. It could dislocate his shoulder. Right. And that puts him in a very, very difficult situation and, caused a lot of issues for him. So it was just one thing after another, after another, after another. And we were like, hey, we're getting a van, we're modifying the house. We're doing the things that we need to do for you, no exceptions, right? So I remember the first van we got he was very involved with my hockey career growing up, right? Mm-hmm. There we have some information about that. But we went on a tournament weekend. He went everywhere with me before he was paralyzed and after. He found a way. We got him on the airplane. We had him transferred by the staff. We always heard him when he was getting in and out of airplanes. And he'd managed to go with me. So the first van we bought was at a tournament in Pittsburgh. And he said, oh, by the way, we're having somebody deliver this random lift vehicle. Mm-hmm. It was a big, red, ugly van. And they had a lift in the side that was barely functional. I don't know where he found this thing, but I know it was difficult and too expensive to find anything solid. So he had me drive 16 hours from a hockey trip. I had to throw my bag in behind him, had no idea how to really strap him in and secure him. Mm-hmm. He's like, we're going to figure it out. And our first trip was a 16-hour drive home all the way from Pittsburgh with every bump in the road, causing pain for him, every little thing, him commenting on my driving. I remember, and it's something I'll never forget because it ended up being a core memory of mine. It's something I'll always remember, but he just, and even when he wasn't hurting, he would give me a little hell up about it and try to, and just get under my skin. He liked to mess with me a lot.
Yeah.
It was just a great trip. So yeah, just that lack of service in the industry and all these things just built up to us having to do it. There wasn't really another choice because he was never happy.
Yeah, that's my dad, kidney dialysis the last probably year, and it was always was up in Richmond, so I would go up there and I would be with my mom, and the transportation was like that was a fight every single time they'd pick him up because he didn't want to go, and you'd have different drivers and you'd have some good, some bad. And it just was very stressful because I think we want something that's predictable and so with y'all's company. So give our viewers, what are you looking to accomplish? Is this when you said non-medical, because I got picked up from Wellstar to take down the Shepherd. And I remember it like one day I'm waiting, and then they said, we got to get this thing approved. And I had been like wanting to get the heck out of that place. And it was delayed, and I had to stay another day because they didn't have transportation down there. What type of transportation are you commonly seeing that you're able to help with?
So we've had a pretty wide mix so far. There's been people that need trips to their daughter's graduations and just don't have a way to get there. There's same day requests. Hey, I need to go to the grocery store, which doesn't typically align, but if we have availability, we're going to accommodate anybody we can. We have people who need to go to get procedures at maxillofacial, surgeons and facilities like that. There's such a wide range. A lot of it is doctor's appointments. That's what we typically see. But we like to flex and bend for people's needs because we can't put people in a box. These are people that struggle with transportation, and there is no diagram. There is no walls that we put up of where they want to go. We shouldn't limit that freedom. So we try to accommodate just about anything we can, but I'd say the majority has been for medical or for doctor's appointments and things of that nature.
Yeah, we're here at Overture, and kind of the not the joke, but we kid around after breakfast. It's like, all right, what doctors are we going to? Because it's like days of doctor visits. It's like one after another because just the nature of the aging process.
Yeah.
And you don't think about it, but unless if you have physical challenges and you've got to personally go see a doctor, you can't put a wheelchair in the front seat unless you have the right equipment to be able to wheel, gate lift and all that. So anybody that has that is going to be stuck because they have to find the right transportation. We're talking to our senior community. So what type of people would want to be calling you? What would be kind of the type of people that say, hey, we need somebody like you?
Well, anybody with a disability on the scope that I listed earlier. It could be, for example, we have someone riding next week who is completely able to get up and walk around, but he's just going to be out of it after a procedure, and he's going to need that transportation home. Or it could be somebody who, isn't able to move anything from the shoulders down, and they still need to get places. It doesn't have to be a certain age range. It's really just, are you able to drive or not on your own? Are you going to be able to get back on your own? If you aren't, give us a call. There really isn't a specific category that we're going for. It's just, can you drive yourself? Can somebody else drive you and handle that or not? Right. A lot of people don't have the infrastructure or the vehicles or the means to get somebody who needs somebody who can't get in and out of the wheelchair to get them from point A to point B, right? They have to, you have to secure them properly. There's a ton of risk that comes with transporting somebody in a wheelchair or power chair or anything like that. So you need somebody who knows what they're doing. You need somebody who can secure them in properly, make sure they're comfortable, safe, and top of the line equipment that's not going to rattle them around when they're riding around too, because especially people with paralysis, they don't recognize the damage that's going on in their body when they're being shaken around or things like that. So you have to be very gentle, very careful, and have, one of the vans we had at one point in my dad's life was just a piece of garbage. And every single bump, we had to do a trip to Florida one time. Every single bump was terrible, and I had to feel every bit of his pain the whole way. And I was in misery the whole time, and that's not even close to the misery he was enduring. So I've gotten to feel it all firsthand. So we just try to. That's why we invest a little bit more in nicer equipment and things with better suspension systems and ramps, anything we can do to improve that journey.
Maintaining that expectation that we had with Patrick's father going through that process is the customer we're trying to provide for. Just maintaining reliability, comfort, convenience, trying to make something that could not necessarily be the highlight in your day, but it can be easier, with a service that we can try to provide for everyone. That's who we're trying to reach out to now.
I love the idea because when we met last night, I was talking to Melanie and Pam, and they teamed up to organize and help seniors with that transition or preparing and putting, the living spaces together. But they were friends, and then they decided to get in business. I think, when you look at successful companies, whether it's Steve Jobs and Wozniak, or you go down the list. It's always like two people coming together. What do you guys? How do you like with the responsibilities? I always like to know, like, when you were like best friends, of course, like you're putting it together. What did you say, like when you're brainstorming on what you're going to be doing? What would you say, Mitchell, like is your sweet spot as far as what you do in the business and what you're good at handling?
Yeah, I'm a naturally, I just big picture, I think. And as Patrick continues to kind of fill the pieces in and how things are going to operate and continue to keep the ball rolling, I just want to keep looking at the horizon of, okay, we need to expect this. We need to try to plan for this. And he gives another suggestion of a great idea or another option we can provide. I say, well, did we put this in consideration? So just continuing to try to be transparent with each other and poke holes in his ideas and give food for thought of when he has a new suggestion of, okay, well, if we think about this, we need to include that, and just trying to play devil's advocate and making sure we're trying to cover all of our bases. Because when it comes time to produce or time to show up, we don't know what we don't know sometimes, and we want to limit that. And we want to make sure if there is something that we haven't tried to predict, that the customer doesn't have to experience it. So me just always trying to be there to say, hey, great suggestion, but we're going to also have to include this, think about that, and then we can keep growing and keep providing the way we designed it to.
Yeah, I mean, and I've known this guy since third grade. He's the best man at my wedding. I've known him my entire life. And so the beauty of going into business with your best friends is that, especially ones that are like brothers, is he's not afraid to tell me when I'm making a mistake or poke up a huge hole in something I put a lot of effort into, to make sure that we're always pushing each other to be better. And that's the kind of friends that have carried along with me in my life, are the ones that always push me to be better. I push them to be better. We're not the ones who hold each other back. And I think that applies really well and fits into the way we're going to plan and grow our business. We actually are. We have one more friend involved as well, who, same story. We met through hockey. I introduced them. They became best friends. We all became best friends in middle school. And here we are today. He ended up living in my house too, basically, long story short. And it's the three of us. So this is a three-man project. We're all committed to pushing each other to be better.
That is so cool, because I love small businesses, because small businesses become big businesses. People think like, okay, you got your Apple, your Facebook, you got your Amazons, but they were once small. And then, to get big, you have to have collaboration. So I like that when you were talking to like Christian, you were chatting with him last night, is to look at the landscape and see how people are doing business. What do you say, like each day, how do you like recap the day? And this is for you, Patrick, and then Mitchell can comment on that. Like what is your like routine or something that you could share with our viewers? Because I know you want to work, but how do you wind down in the evening?
Just outside of work?
Just like, do you have outlets on things? Do you journal on things? Do you turn to some music later? Like, what is that evening like as you're winding down the day?
My evening is my wife. I met her in high school. She was 15, I was 16. We share the same birthday. We're exactly a year apart, New Year's Eve. And she's my best friend. And, when you live with your best friend, you can spend time with them like you're by yourself, right?
Yes.
So we spend a ton of time together after hours. We have a son who's a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's the majority of our day when we're not working, is chasing him around. He's a super active kid. It's incredible. He's incredible. But once we finally get him down, when that finally happens, we spend a lot of time. We love to cook. We love to do, make all kinds of meals together with each other on making, we're big foodies, right? We love to eat, but, just a lot of time talking. TV is always a big one for us. We like to wind down and we're a big cozy kind of family. We like to lay back and, and recap the day and talk about our son and talk about, the ways that we're our future and the things that we're trying to accomplish. Because she's a very driven person as well. She's a ER nurse at Northside Cherokee Hospital.
Okay.
And she's just incredible, right? She came out of a pregnancy and dove into her first day of being on the job as an ER nurse after her maternity leave, and in the night shifts on the weekends, right? So she's incredible. So she's a lot cooler than I am. So if you ever have podcasts with her someday, you're gonna have a much more interesting conversation.
Oh,
but she
yes.
fills a lot of my time, and it's time that I'm glad I'm feeling.
Well, I have several ER nurses that I know and are in my family, and that is a stressful environment when you're in that. So she's definitely trained in the environment of stress. We have Charles Folsom. He spent 30 years as an ER nurse, and this bracelet right here, which has your medical history on it, came out of a story when his mom actually got the wrong information and passed because of not having the proper information. So all those years he's saying, how can we solve that problem? Now he's working with his son, and they're absolutely providing, based on his experience of seeing things in the ER, providing now good information when the EMTs need it, or even when anybody needs it. You just scan QR code and you can have different levels of information.
Wish we had that when my dad was around. He had to read off his condition and his medical history so many times to so many different people, multiple times in the hospital, to different people. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it is. And, when he was on my podcast, I immediately understood, because I remember when the EMTs picked me up after my stroke, I think they said, like, what do you think's going on here? I mean, maybe that was a dream, but I'm saying it's a stroke. What the heck are you thinking about? But I didn't dial 911. I was dialing family members, and it's like, McFly, come on. They got to dial 911. What do you think? They're like the gatekeeper to 911? But when you're in certain situations, the brain doesn't connect with common sense sometimes. So now I know we mentioned, this was kind of before we got on the air, and this is for Mitchell. We talked about our superpower, dyslexia. So you're too young to have gone. I mean, you're too young to look back. But when I have my guests, we have guests on, like there's a lady here. She didn't know she had dyslexia, and I will never say an age from a woman, but her son teaches at the dyslexia school right around the corner. So he's, let's say, in his 40s, so 40s or 50s. So you imagine that she's a little bit older than that, but she just found out she had dyslexia. Her son has, but it didn't dawn on her to really see that it gets passed down. Did you with your parents, like, or how do you think you got it? Did you get it from your mom or your dad?
It's hard to tell. Yeah. I don't know.
It's not always easy to track and see, because unless you get tested, you just think, oh, I think different than other people.
Yeah, that's we talked about kind of personality traits that can be associated with dyslexia, and the way your brain can kind of tick a little bit different. And when you pointed out like that, my father kind of has a similar brain, as in the way you want to view things and the way you kind of are shooting out different comments or facts or observations. So
do you know some of the more successful business people are dyslexic?
None.
I mean, you just search online dyslexic business people, and it'll just go. So I'm just going to say this, Patrick. You probably didn't realize, being a childhood friend, that this fastened forward to this event, that he's going to bring ideas that are going to be different than you're thinking. And that's so good to have different perspectives of things, because you don't want similar, because if you're going, oh yeah, I was thinking that same thing, that's not business challenging different. Like I think you said, is you'll poke holes in something, because that perspective is so important to be able to vent these things and to see the business from different eyes. Yeah. So that's kind of very cool. What would you say? You had mentioned, and this is going back to you, Patrick, you mentioned some things that were like really good before we started. how do you read books? Do you listen to podcasts? How do you take in your personal development? Because you said the slight edge, which is getting 1% better. What has been your experience of really growing and learning?
I'd say, more than a few years back, I kind of had this moment where I realized that I had a bit of an ego, and I kind of came to terms with it and realized that the moments where I had previously killed that ego and, became somebody that could observe and truly pay attention to other people, and rather than thinking I need to be better than them or compete with them at that moment, actually pulling what I can from every single person I interact with and really hearing people talk and really understanding, I love to be surrounded by people who are smarter than me. The reason that Mitchell and I are best friends is that we try to compete in that regard. We try to push each other to be better. We try to get, a little bit better than each other every day. And I like to be surrounded by people in my life who do push me to be better, who maybe do know a lot more than me, right? And just observe. I mean, I come from, I'm the youngest of four brothers. Three brothers, actually, two sisters. Two sisters are the youngest, truly, but I'm the youngest of the brothers.
Yeah.
And I got to watch, I don't want to go too deep into it, but a lot of them made some very critical mistakes when I was growing up. And being the youngest, I had the opportunity to observe and say, am I going to let this damage myself? Am I going to self-destruct because of all these things I'm seeing? And am I going to copy that, or am I going to try to make something better out of it? And I think I built that from a really young age, which is how I've just tried to live my life, all the way until now. And, and obviously there's some hiccups here and there. I'm not perfect by any means, but I've just chosen to kill the ego and learn from everybody I can and improve in any way possible. I do pick up the occasional podcast from time to time, not too deep, but I have a lot of really incredible people in my life, whether it's through work, through family, through my wife, through everything that I've just picked up so much from. And, they make me so much better every day.
Yeah. Tony Robbins had said, I got years ago, that the quality of your life is your quality of your relationships, and business is relationships. So, those finding and getting those good relationships definitely will take you far. So that's awesome to hear. What would you say, Mitchell, when it comes to, like, do you read something and say, hey, Patrick, hey, I read this and I thought of it this way? Are you the type of person that reads something and has to share it, or do you just internalize it in the sense of digesting the information?
Yeah, I take the latter, digesting it, keeping it. Sometimes I'm cautious to people receiving fun facts or new thoughts, ideas, tips. If they're not asking for help, you can't really, sometimes people don't receive it as well as you intended. So I definitely like to kind of digest it, see how it can affect my personal life. And then when I have someone bring it up to me that it can relate to, happy that I can share maybe something I've read or a lesson I've learned. And share that
out at the right time.
That is so wise. I mean, and this is why I say it. I was always from the mindset of, I would tell people about things, and it's like, if they're not asking, they don't want. And I was wondering why I was pulling out energy doing that. And finally, I don't know if I read something, heard something, whatever. It was later in life. It was like, if somebody asks for it, give them an answer. But if they don't ask for it, you don't always have to put that out. And it took me years to figure that one out. So
that likes to know it all, So
yes.
Tell everybody, educate them.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I think it was back to the ego thing. We have to put that ego in a box, and we have to kind of put it in a box that we can lock it in, because it does hold us back when we think we know more than because we're always learning and growing. So we never know. If we stop growing, then if we stop learning, we stop growing. As we wind down, I know it's Friday afternoon. You've got a family, and you've got other things to do. And I'm so glad that you guys, were able to come in on a Friday afternoon. I don't think I've had podcast on Friday afternoon. Usually I get,
excited to get in here.
oh yeah.
Pleasure. Thank
Oh,
you.
it is in me because it's funny because I get up very early. And so at about 5 o'clock, I'm going, going down. But, the energy that, when you're talking to the idea that you guys are working together, childhood friends, the story behind starting the business. I want to encourage our viewers that the one thing you want to always do is help small businesses grow. And when somebody has a great idea like you guys are putting together, people need to know about it. So if you know of somebody that is senior center or just somebody that could be aware of their services, 10 years of taking care of your dad, that's a long time. And all the things that you have to overcome, you've rolled into a business. It's not like you thought of an idea yesterday and you're launching it. You experienced your dad's story for 10 years, which I'd love to have you back more and dig deeper into some things, because our viewers always like to hear more about the backstory.
Yeah.
And so why don't we do this? Tell our viewers, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, you can reach me anytime at 678-640-6119. That's my personal phone, so feel free to call anytime. I'm always happy to take questions. This is everything to me, so I'm more than happy to take any calls. Please don't hesitate. You can also reach us by email at support@wellway.com. We also have Instagram, Facebook. We're on LinkedIn, YouTube, just about every platform you could think of. We got a little something on there. You can just type WellWay NEMT, just all one word, nothing too crazy, but like to keep it consistent across the board to make it easier for people to connect. And we do have a website as well. Same name. You can just go find us at our website. There's a place to request a quote. You can call me directly from there, or you can just submit a little thing through a little template through the website as well. So
awesome. And now, when they have problems, do they call you, Mitchell? I mean, because Patrick's handling all the easy stuff, or should we direct all the problems to you?
Escalate the incidents. Yeah.
You're good at that already.
He'll just eventually start handing me the
Okay.
from there. So
hit a forward button.
Yeah, because I love. It's funny. I don't know if it's a dyslexic thing, maybe. And I know I'm sorry I'm throwing on this, but I geek out on this stuff because I love, when I look at things, I love the problem solving. It's just my brain goes to, what's the solution, or how do I finish the loop on things? So good that you guys are in business together. I mean, it's rock solid. Great. I love it. So I'll go to Mitchell first. What would be the one thing, and then Patrick, you'll be thinking of your answer. One thing that you want our viewers to take home from our time on this podcast?
just hope they can understand and maybe relate, see where Patrick and I are trying to come from with WellWay, and really take away the message that it comes from a genuine place personally, and that we're trying to provide a very reliable experience. Top level from day one, I said, let's be the Chick-fil-A of non-emergency medical transportation. We want to always be someone they can rely on. We're never trying to leave someone handed or left alone, out and dry. So just the reliability that we can offer in the service. And if you're not sure, still reach out to us because we're happy to accommodate or help out in any way we can.
That's really good. Patrick, what would be the one thing you want our viewers to take home from our podcast?
Well, obviously, Mitchell covered the actual company avenue that was natural that we would all discuss. But I think it's important for people to recognize that whether this succeeds or not, whether we do great, whether we just maintain at a steady pace, I think everybody should recognize the experiences that they're facing with loved ones and learning as much as they can from those experiences. And if they feel like there's a real problem with something that they're seeing with a loved one or themselves personally, maybe look for a way to provide value and add to this industry and fill a hole that's huge. I mean, people are going through so much every day and struggling with care left and right. So, if you want something that's going to fulfill you in life, and that's why we're here. We're not here for the money. We're here to provide a real service that's going to help everybody out and be fulfilling at the same time. Consider that. Consider what the suffering and all the pain you've witnessed, and maybe there's something you could do to fill that need as well and help people out.
That is so awesome. I know your dad is smiling on you as you start the business and as you're moving forward, and it's really awesome that you could take the time. Thank you so much for coming in here, and I want to challenge our viewers: share this with people get the word out, give people an opportunity to know how they can be serviced by WellWay and Patrick and Mitchell. So thank you guys for being in the studio. Friday afternoon, you're probably the first on a Friday afternoon. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate it.
It was my pleasure.
Take care.